and then go to the rest of World Cup qualification and tell you what it looks like going into the USA. I call it Invasion USA myself, and that is because I come from an age way back then when Chuck Norris starred in a movie called Invasion USA. It's an 80s movie. Most of the guys around me in the studios here, as I record, don't even know that movie or the actor. I think they don't. Do you guys know who Chuck Norris is? Do you know the movie Invasion USA? Okay, right. Well, they say they do. I don't. Okay, one admits that they don't. Yeah. So go back and tell. These were our Chuck Norris was one of our action heroes from the 80s. You guys are now used to the different ones like The Rock and all. We had guys action heroes in the 80s. But anyway, I call it Invasion USA. But the World Cup is actually going to be hosted not only by the USA but the entire North America, because Canada and Mexico are also hosts for the first time. FIFA hosts the World Cup in 3 nations. What does the picture look like? Uganda out. We finished second in our group, but we did not finish strongly enough to be one of the 4 teams to go into the playoffs for Africa. Those playoffs are going to be taking place. I'll be coming shortly to them and telling you how it's going to look there and what has happened and how it's going to look there. But let me give you a feel of the 42 teams that have already made it to the World Cup. It's easier for me because what I do is that I close my eyes and visualize the world map, and so I can tell you those 42 without having to check anywhere. We've got the 3 hosts I've told you, so I knock those off and I'm left with 39. So I'll start with Asia and tell you that I've got 9 from Asia that have qualified. From the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, and Iran. Those 4 are in there. Then far Asia, you've got Japan, South Korea, and Uzbekistan as those 3. So that's 7. And then the 2 from Oceania to join them in that group, Australia and New Zealand. So you've got 9 there, plus the 3 hosts. Then you come to Africa, another 9. Cape Verde in the Mediterranean Sea. North Africa gave us Egypt, gave us Tunisia, gave us Algeria, gave us Morocco. That makes 5 for Africa. And then you come to West Africa, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. And that makes 8. And then the last one for Africa to qualify, South Africa, representing this region, Eastern and Southern Africa. South Africa are at the World Cup. Remember, they had to do this at the expense of Nigeria, who will not be at the World Cup. So that's another 9. So 9 from Asia, 9 from Africa, 3 hosts. And then you've got 12 from Europe. Who are these 12 who have qualified so far? But there was a lot of great action. There was a lot of great action this week from the European version of the qualifiers of the World Cup. But who is there? From the UK, the British Islands, you've got Scotland and England in there. England made history. 22 goals scored, none conceded, all matches won. So they've got into the World Cup unbeaten and without conceding a goal. The English, that is Thomas Tuchel and his team. You expect that finally they're going to make a splash and be one of the favorites to win their first World Cup since 1966. They've been underachievers at that stage. So you've got Scotland and England in there. You've got Norway qualified, Erling Haaland and Alexander Soloth, the 2 giants, taking them to the World Cup for the first time in a long time. Those guys are coming from Scandinavia. Then Western Europe, of course, has got France, has got Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands have all qualified. These are big teams that you expect to go and make a splash at the World Cup, and so have Austria and Switzerland from Western Europe, if you like. From Eastern Europe, just Croatia. And then from the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal and Spain, 2 of the teams that will be looking like favorites when they go into the World Cup, are in there. So that's the picture from Europe. And then South America joins them with some giants. 6 of them have qualified. Argentina and Brazil are in there, of course. Paraguay and Uruguay, who are historically teams that you know and with what they've done at the World Cup in the past, with Uruguay actually even both hosting and winning before. And then you've got Ecuador and Colombia. Colombia, of course, also did make a splash at the World Cup in 1990, if you remember, with Carlos Valderrama. 1994. They used to be good, and they've been away from the scene for a little bit, but they are back. So that's South America for you, and largely, and then CONCACAF, who was qualified, surprises there. That's where we have the surprises, because we've got Panama, and we've got Haiti. Now, Haiti, everybody knows. They've had issues, civil war, domestic issues of both military and economic plights. They've got a multitude of natural disasters. They've got what do we call them? Refugees all over the world because of what has happened to Haiti. But they are at the World Cup next year, and they're going to be writing their own stories. So they're there with Panama. And then that's from the CONCACAF, as well as Curacao. I don't even know if most people can actually find Curacao on the map, but they are at the World Cup and they're going to be writing their own story. The same way in Africa, we say Cape Verde will be a small island. So that's the World Cup picture for you. Now, we've left with two different types of playoffs. Europe has a second round of qualification because there's still a few bats for them to fill, actually all the way up to four bats to fill. Who are fighting for them? The biggest name fighting for qualification through the back door or the small window, if you like, are Italy, former World Cup. I mean, they've won the World Cup, if you know, a couple of times, including the last one being in 2006 when they're inspired by Solly Difending and Fabio Cannavaro. But the Italians are World Cup mainstays, if you like. And they won the World Cup, actually, in the one in 1982, so famously beating Brazil when Paolo Rossi inspired them. So, but they are fighting for their lives to get into the World Cup, along with some other the Czech Republic, Denmark and Sweden, the two Scandinavian countries. Norway at the World Cup, Denmark and Sweden haven't qualified. They're trying to qualify through a second round playoffs. It's that tough for them. And on. There's a few other countries, Slovakia and all that. So that's the European qualification fighting. Now, the rest of the world is going into what we call the Interconfederation playoffs. 6 teams are going to be fighting for 2 places. Africa has 1 slot. Who took it? DR Congo. How did they get it? By beating both Cameroon and Nigeria in the playoffs. Remember, I told you we had 4 teams, 4 of the best second-place teams from our groups. After we had 9 straight qualifiers, 4 of those teams, the ones that were top, went into a playoff. 2 semifinals and 1 final. The 2 semifinals, Nigeria beating Gabon very easily at the end. I mean, it was only 1-1 at the end of 90 minutes. But going into time added on, the floodgates opened and Osimhen and company got the goals and the final score was 4-1. So they get into the final as favorites because what? Because DR Congo had actually upset Brian Mbeumo, Andre Onana and Cameroon. The DR Congo getting into that final against Nigeria. What did they go and do? Upset Nigeria as well. The 2 teams, of course, are playing out to a 1-1 draw, and the Congolese getting the better of Nigeria in the penalty shootout. I thought that Nigeria, made a few errors, including the substitutions that took some of their stars off the pitch before this shootout. You'd rather have died on the sword of Osimhen taking a penalty, or on Ademola Lookman, or some of the stars that actually, Alex Iwobi, they had already been substituted by the time the shootout came around. And who took the penalties for Nigeria? Not too many Africans can name those, but they missed. The Congolese scored, and they're in this playoff. Who else is in the playoff? I told you those playoffs, Interconfederation, actually 6. So from Africa, 8 is DR Congo. From South America, it's Bolivia. From Asia, it's Iraq. And from Oceania, it's New Caledonia. Can you find that on the map? I doubt that. But they are also fighting to get into the World Cup and write a story. That's what FIFA have done in expanding the World Cup to 48 teams, is to give so many other countries the chance to dream and then to go and live out those dreams. The rest of the other 2, to make the 6, are from CONCACAF. That is Jamaica and Suriname. Suriname, the country, of course, that has given us so many players at this World Cup stage, not playing for Suriname, but playing for the Netherlands, because that's where some sovereign big names, including Ruud Gullit, that's where their roots are. But they are Dutchmen who played for the Netherlands, because Suriname, I think, was actually a colony of the Dutch. But there you are. That's the World Cup picture for you. I hope I've painted it detailedly, and there's nothing to miss for you there. I'll leave World Cup qualification at that and wait for the draws in December. Draws are actually, I think, on the 6th. The draws in December, and then we can have the party itself kick off in the cities of Mexico, the USA, and Canada come next June.